You're watching The Digital Age, and I'm James Goodale. Well, it looks like Sarah Palin defied expectations, and she may have survived the debate. But will she survive the net? All the viral web things are out there, all the Saturday Night Live videos, or can she survive that too? And by the way, who won the debate? Not an irrelevant question. Here to discuss those questions with me tonight are Joe Conason, who is the columnist for the New York Observer. Thank you for coming by, Joe.
My pleasure.
Ed Rollins, senior political strategist for the White House during the Reagan years, and the strategist and campaign consultant for Mike Huckabee, a CNN consultant, a CNN blogger. Thank you for coming by.
My pleasure. Thank you.
How did you think Sarah Palin did?
I did very well. I thought she far exceeded the expectations. The most important thing is she got her confidence back. She walked on that stage, and from the opening moment where she basically put her hand out and said, "Can I call you Joe?" She was on, and she's had a hard couple weeks here, and I think she reinforced the base one more time, which is important. And Republicans are very happy today. Anytime you get a running mate who can make your own base happy, then they do more than most vice presidents do.
So how do you think she did, Joe?
Well, everything Ed just said is kind of a measure of how incredibly low the expectations were. I mean, every poll that I've seen since the debate has showed that Joe Biden creamed her. I mean, some polls show, 2-1 that he won. Some are, 3-2 that he won. I haven't seen one poll that shows that anybody except the Republican base believes that she won the debate. So we went in.
Drudge Report.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the Drudge Report internet poll, right,
yes,
which is not exactly a scientific poll. But that brings us to the point of the sort of general dumbing down, which is that we would cite an internet poll in the Drudge Report, right? I mean, Rollins is much too smart to believe that means anything. So we went into this, and she's the underdog, and of course this generates sympathy and devotion, I guess, on the part of Republicans. But you really have to ask yourself, what kind of a victory is that? That she manages to, regain her confidence. Confidence in what? She can't describe the health care proposal of her own candidate accurately. She can't, she constantly promotes these various deceptions that Steve Schmidt has written down for her on the index cards about what they stand for, what they propose to do, what she has done. So I mean, she did fine. She has a charming personality. I'm not saying she's a stupid person. I'm saying she's ignorant and ill-prepared for this, the most important job in the country, and there's no concealing that in a forum like that, especially when Joe Biden was played above his game. I mean, this is somebody who, I think there were some low expectations for him as well. There were concerns about would he make a terrible gaffe. He did make one. He called Bosnians Bosniaks, which I thought was probably endearing, actually, to many people. But he managed to correct her without being terribly condescending. He had that sort of pasted-on smile, which was meant to, cover all responses, and I think managed to come through as somebody who belied the elitist label that the Republicans have tried so hard to put on Obama and on the Democrats in general. This is somebody with a real background among working families in this country.
How do you think Biden did?
He gave a nice 3-decade history of his record in the Senate and John McCain's record, at least as he perceived it. And being perfectly honest, I mean, on substance, he ought to know it. He sat there for 36 years. But I think at the end of the day, is he going to have gigantic crowds out there cheering him on today? Is Obama going to go up 3 or 4 points in the polls? No, I don't think so. I think we're back to where it needs to be, which is about McCain and Obama.
Do you think there'll be big crowds for Palin?
Gigantic crowds. You can't get in the arenas. She's the biggest draw we have.
Well, therefore, Joe made a nice
analysis of the debate, but is it relevant?
Well,
I don't ever think vice presidential campaigns are relevant. The ones you look back on are ones where there's a major gaffe. And I personally think vice presidents can help you a little or hurt you a lot. And at this point in time, Joe Biden may have helped the ticket a little bit and added some substance to a very inexperienced senator who's the head of the ticket. And she basically added a dynamic of a younger woman, a more attractive candidate than the Republican parties have had for a while.
Do you think she's rehabilitated herself?
I think among our base, she has rehabilitated herself.
Do you think she's rehabilitated herself back to the point where she was during the convention?
Well, you know, the media generally, although they have investigated her a little bit and they have, fact-checked her a little bit, basically was ready to hold her to an extremely low standard, and she surpassed that standard in the debate. So yes, to that extent, she's sort of put herself back at par. The problem that the Republican ticket faces, though, is that that's not really enough. Motivating the base is not enough. The base is shrunk. So rehabilitating yourself among the base and being able to motivate the base is not enough in a debate where Joe Biden repeatedly made the point, this is the same as Bush-Cheney, and you don't want any more of that. And she couldn't really argue that. She'd say, well, we're the team of mavericks and you're just looking at the past. And, you know, that's not the past, it's the present. The present is we're in a situation that was created by 8 years of this administration, and what are you going to do about it as voters? And the answer is you either pick these people who I think Biden argued persuasively generally represent the same policies, or are you going to come with us for a change? And I think that was the essence of the debate, and that is why, aside from his just ability to speak in English sentences, Biden was perceived to have won the debate.
You didn't tell me who you thought won.
I think on points, Biden won. I think on style, she won. And at the end of the day, once again, I agree totally with what Joe said. Our base is smaller, but now it's motivated. It was not motivated 2 weeks before the convention. And there were a lot of Republicans and a lot of conservatives in particular that weren't very enthused about their ticket. And even though the base has shrunk from when Bush won 2 elections, if they're not motivated and get out there and vote, we still got 5 weeks to go. And I think McCain cannot motivate our base. Can McCain reach out to independents and some disaffected Democrats? We have to wait and see. But McCain has been the one that's not been performing well the last couple of weeks. And I think once it turned to the economy, it's been about him. And I think there's been some missteps. I think we're now back to 5 weeks of trench warfare. And I would expect, Obama's been 5, 6, 7 points ahead in the national polls. He's starting to basically move out in some of these states. It's probably the best opportunity Democrats have had in a long period of time to win this thing. But I've also watched Democrats lose it in the last couple of weeks of a campaign, and maybe it'll happen again.
Points, she won, lost on points, but won on style. So it's just like the Obama debate, because most people said that McCain won on points, but Obama won on style.
Well, in a sense, that's true.
It turned out very well for Obama, because there would be some argument that his increase in the margin in the polls from where he was before the debate may have been attributed to the debate, probably to the economic crisis.
Here's the problem with winning on style, assuming that you appreciate the style of Sarah Palin, which I don't think everybody necessarily does, but let's say you do.
At least not the media elite, though.
Right, the media elite. Sorry.
So you.
Yes, me. But
especially you.
Especially me. But the problem is that this week, substance counts a lot more than style, because people are actually worried. They are quite worried about the future, and the style, sort of, I'm a hockey mom, is like, okay, very nice, but it's not going to do anything to help us, and we need help. We've got to do something about the economic situation we're in. We have very troubling problems in foreign policy that continue. Afghanistan is sinking, and she's just not ready for it, and everybody knows that. Everybody knows that, and nothing she said the other night changed that.
Did you agree with that? That substance is more important than style at this point in time? For example, if she had not done as well as Joe said, and in light of McCain having a bad 2 weeks, as you said, wouldn't there be an argument that the whole campaign was down the drain?
Well, I think if she would have had a disastrous night, was certainly the potential was there.
So now she's come. So, how many explain the style point. From my own point of view, I thought that was great.
Well,
I thought it was great television.
It was great. It was
good television.
It was good television.
There's a reason why we all watched it.
It was great entertainment. So what's wrong is that as a standard with respect to
well, there's nothing. And where I take a little bit of issue is we've had a discussion of the last couple of weeks, a national discussion, and everyone is very concerned about the economy. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, have called congressional offices complaining about don't bail out Wall Street. So the whole focus of this thing has been about Wall Street. She basically made it related back to ordinary people. And we always forget there's a whole lot of people live in this country between New York City and California. And sometimes the elites think that's where it is. And I think she relates to ordinary people. I mean, and I think to a certain extent, it's been a great debate putting John McCain opposite Joe Biden to talk about the last 30 years of the United States Senate. And I'm sure McCain could have defended his record and countered on Biden a lot more effectively. But you've got two newcomers. And the difference is Obama's the top of the ticket, a guy with 3 years experience in the Senate, 1 year of which he's missed out campaigning. And the question is not who's number two, the question is who's number one.
Well, I have to say one thing about that. In politics, here's the deal. Mm-hmm. People who have less experience can rise to the top very quickly if they are very smart and fluent in policy. They know what they're talking about, and they show some judgment about what they're going to do. That was the case with Bill Clinton, and that is the case with Barack Obama. Sarah Palin does not meet those criteria, I'm sorry. And that's one big difference. The second thing is, to say that she kind of represents the average American, I think is very insulting to the average American, because she stands up there and says, on the one hand, we're going to rein in greedy Wall Street. Those greedy people on Wall Street, they have to be reined in. We've got to regulate them. And then she concludes by saying, you know what? We're against big government. We have to get it out of the way because we're going to lose our freedoms. Well, what is she talking about? Does she know what she's talking about? Is she able to connect one thought to the next? These are important qualifications for somebody that you're going to turn over the highest office in the country to.
Yeah, well,
or the next to the highest
Is she
office.
qualified to be president?
I think she has the ability to make judgment. First of all, you threw a point out here of a totally inexperienced guy, Bill Clinton, who became president. He happened to be governor of the state for a long period of time.
He was, but he was not experienced on the international stage.
We
could say Jack Kennedy. I mean, these are all people who have...
If the only requirement is to pick a United States senator who served on the Foreign Relations Committee, I promise you we'll have a very ineffective foreign policy. I think the bottom line is governors make decisions every day. Some are very good, some aren't so good. I think she has a unique quality. I think she basically can be a part of this change. It's not like John McCain's going to die on the first day in office. I think that there's a learning process. Well, we all hope. Equally as important, Barack Obama. I happen
to like him, too.
Barack Obama on day one goes in and he's got to make the decisions. And the whole 3 o'clock in the morning call, Joe Biden's not going to be sleeping in bed with him. So it's, this
in the same room.
Not that far away.
Same room, he said last night. Wait, Ed, Joe wants to talk about substance.
Right.
Well, I mean, he's a columnist for the New York Observer. That's what we should talk about. You're the political consultant.
Right.
Okay, let's.
It's hard for Rollins to do that now, though, because he's too honest, really. It's like...
No. What has Sarah Palin done for McCain in terms of the margin in the polls? Anything? Has she stanched the bleeding? Is she going to?
No.
She hasn't stanched the bleeding.
No. What she didn't open the wound deeper.
Didn't open the wound deeper.
Right. The bottom line is, and I'll tell you exactly what she did. If John McCain would have had his convention, his abbreviated convention, and he could have put other people on the ticket who may have been more equipped, allegedly, by whatever, but would not have excited the base. And she came out and for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, basically made conservative Republicans excited about this ticket again, where there was great suspicion about McCain. McCain won his nomination in all practicality without Republican in states like New Hampshire, where independents and everybody else get to vote. So she re-energized, and a lot of people sat there and said, I think John McCain really is a conservative, if he's willing to make this kind of a pick. Equally as important, young people and women, who we have very few in our party, and it's a diminishing number, she has the potential to be a new role model.
Okay, well, let's talk about the potential of Sarah Palin.
Right.
Okay, because before we go into the debates, she's dragging the ship down.
She had two terrible interviews.
Terrible interviews with Katie Couric. She wasn't helping at all. People were scared if she continued doing that, she was down the drain. Now let's ask ourselves, what's going to happen in the future with respect to her image, and how does the net impact that? Let's take a look at some of the videos that have been kicking around on Sarah Palin. The first one is from Saturday Night Live.
Governor Palin, thank you for agreeing to talk with me one more time.
Oh, hey, you know, sure.
Did you enjoy your week in New York City?
You know, I did, Katie, and I wasn't sure I would at first. New York is, of course, home to the liberal media elite, but Todd and the kids had a great time going to the Central Park and the FAO Schwarz and that goofy Evolution Museum.
So here's the question. Do you think that Sarah Palin, as lampooned by Saturday Night Live, is gone, and we now have a new Sarah Palin?
Absolutely not. You got Tina Fey going this weekend, and she's going to wink and talk about Six-Pack Joe and all the rest of it. I mean, Tina Fey is an extraordinary comedian who has not that she needed to relaunch her career, because she has a great career, but captured a part and did it very effectively. My problem is going to be looking at Sarah Palin and again not seeing Tina Fey. But I think the bottom line is humor, whether it's Bill Clinton humor, Saturday Night Live, or George Bush, or Ronald Reagan, or Gerald Ford. Saturday Night Live's always going to have a parody about some political force.
Now, Saturday Night Live, we have to agree with that. It's going to have a parody. I guess my question would be, the parody was based on her silly remarks made in the
pretty much exactly what she's really said. I mean, that's.
So you think?
I mean,
so
when they do a parody of Chris Matthews or Bill Clinton, they make up the stuff that the guy says, right? It's.
Okay, so your view of the debate is that it was just as, quote, silly as her interview was with Katie Couric.
No, I wouldn't go that far, but it's close. I mean, you know, Sarah Palin was very fortunate, actually, in the way she was treated by Gwen Ifill, who got kind of a brushback pitch from the McCain campaign because she's written a book about Obama. And one of the things she didn't do was to ask Sarah Palin about some of her kookier ideas. You know, do you really believe, for instance, that the Earth is only 6,000 years old, and that, you know, human beings used to sort of run around on the face of the planet with dinosaurs, which she allegedly has said to somebody in Alaska at some point. You know, she is a creationist. You know, I think those kinds of questions. They didn't talk about abortion or reproductive rights at all. She has views about that are far outside the mainstream, that even her running mate wouldn't endorse. You shouldn't have an abortion in the case of rape and incest. So she was fortunate, I think, that some of the sort of further extremes of her own perspectives were not explored. But as far as the style, and a style that lends itself to parody, yes, of course, that's still there. I mean, she did a lot of it last night.
So you're a political consultant. What you've told me is, with respect to over-the-air television, Saturday Night Live, NBC over-the-air, non-cable, that her image is still going to be subject to parody for whatever.
What you can't take away. I mean, obviously, there's been the undercurrent of two disastrous primetime interviews. That why they ever let her do these are beyond me. Obviously, the Tina Fey double Saturday Night Live, which has been hilarious, out there. What ordinary people have got to see beyond the parodies is they got to see her give a great convention speech, and they got to see her perform last night. Over 50 million people in both instances got to see her perform live effectively.
Ed, the reason they let her do the interviews was because in the ordinary course of events in American democracy, we do have people running for the highest offices in the land interviewed by journalists and asked pertinent questions.
That's bad.
You don't like that idea, but you know, it's a traditional. These are traditional American values.
I'm more than willing to let you do that if I can give you the questions and you ask the questions.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's switch from interviews over the air with Katie Couric to some of the stuff that's going on the net. And I've got two clips here I want to show. Can we roll one?
Now she lives in the coldest state. Her husband took her fishing on their very first date. They got married and had 5 kids. She was doing politics while he was catching squids. Sarah Palin, queen of the Alaskan frontier. A card-carrying member of the NRA. Disagree with her and she'll blow your ass away. Sarah's very fond of shooting moose, bald eagles, puppies, and even a goose.
All right, so let's look at one more to get a sense of what's going on the net. You probably seen more than I have on the net. Let's roll the second one.
Hey there, welcome to Red State Update. My name's Jackie Rose.
I'm done laughing, folks. Sarah Palin gave a great speech last night.
Yeah,
She's really excited the Republicans, but I have to admit, in light of some recent revelations, most notably that bikini gun picture of her wasn't real, we here at Red State Update just aren't as sure in our support of Sarah Palin as we. What is that?
I'll tell you what, after last night's speech, I've been inspired to paint again. Yes, sir. That's my Sarah Palin painting right there. Yes, sir.
Sarah Palin is supposed to be hot.
Well, I did my best to capture her big, brown, beautiful eyes. Yes, sir.
It don't look like Sarah Palin. It look like Sam Brownback in drag.
Hey. Great humor. In politics, I've always wanted not to spend my next life as a journalist, a great journalist like Joe. I've always wanted to be a political cartoonist, and now they have a whole new form to basically every day get up and fire off salvos, which is
all right. So
fun.
she was getting killed on the net before the debate, and so the question is, and I think that was part of bringing her down. Now, do you think it's still going to happen? And what will the impact of the net be on Palin?
Well, I mean, parody videos and songs and things like that are going to, of course, get huge audiences now that they couldn't get before. Sure. I mean, somebody would make a video or write a song, and you wouldn't necessarily hear it. And now, it's all accessible to everybody. Look, I think the net is dangerous to all politicians. It's been very dangerous to Barack Obama, too. All this stuff about, is he a Muslim, and actually very toxic stuff is out there about him. Has damaged his campaign. It's the reason why in a climate where the Democrats should probably be 20 points ahead, they are 5 points ahead.
You think that's because of the net?
I think a lot of it is. I think a lot of it, if you go back and look at sort of viral emails and the types of stuff that has kind of been under the radar for the last 6 months or more about Barack Obama, I think it's done considerable damage among a certain type, for example, of white working class Democratic voter who may or may not be very religious but consider themselves Christians and worry that this guy isn't really a Christian, for example. I wouldn't even say it's racist among most people, but it's a fear of something foreign. There's been an ability to create an impression that this guy is not quite an American, and we have to fear him. By the same token, I think there's a lot of tough stuff out there about Sarah Palin, or there has been, some of which may not be true, some of which probably is true. There was the revelation about her daughter's pregnancy, by the unwed daughter's pregnancy, came about because of web stuff that was out there in blogs about, was Trig, the newborn, really Sarah Palin's son, or was it the daughter's son? And the campaign then felt they had to announce that Bristol Palin was pregnant, and then attacked everybody for discussing the fact that she was pregnant. I mean, it was a very curious thing. But what I'm saying is that was an outgrowth of stuff that was on the internet.
Do you have a blog?
No, I don't have a blog, but I read blogs.
You read blogs?
Why would I want to have a blog? I don't want anybody sending me nasty. I write a column and get nasty emails.
You just want to be flamed. I have a blog on the Observer site.
You have a blog?
Yeah. That's
quite a statement he made. This, after all, is the program's called The Digital Age. So
no, here's what's happening.
Do you agree with him on that?
Absolutely, totally. Here's what's happening. Yes, here's what's happening. In the early days of politics, you wouldn't put things on television as negative as they are today. Now a lot of negative stuff goes on television. You do it in mail. You do it direct mail, and you could put scathing pieces there and not bear responsibility. You sort of create some idiotic committee that for lawful behavior, what have you, and they did everything. They doctored pictures. They did everything. And I grew up in California, which was probably the worst place of all to do.
It was Nixon.
It was before Nixon. Nixon may have perfected it, but it certainly went on both sides of the aisle. Today, the danger of the internet, there's great information that people can have, but there's no editors anymore. There's nobody basically sitting there I assume when you write, there's somebody looks over your shoulder and says, maybe not in your particular case, but normally a writer.
He was the editor. He was the editor of the Observer once,
so he knows what it's like.
But there's some, you have two sources, or what are your sources, or there's some reliability.
Right.
Today, and there also is a limit on space as to what you can do. There's no limit on space today. You can write whatever you want and put it somewhere, and there can be lots of misinformation. There's more information out there than ever before, but there can also be misinformation.
Jim will tell you there's not much legal liability either. I mean, there's
that makes a big difference.
Right.
But Ed, let's get back to your point. First of all, you agree that Obama is only up 5 points when he could be up more because the net is keeping him back.
The environment is such that, meaning the Bush administration and a president that's going to set the record low before he's out of office. He's close to it, but he'll be there by the time he's out of office. An economy that is absolutely totally in the tank. 8 years of Republican administration that obviously has got us in a war we can't get out of, that most of the country doesn't want to be in. Any Democrat should be 10, 15 points ahead. There's something holding things back. Race may be a part of it. A lack of resume be part of it. If Barack Obama had been in the Senate for 12 years or 18 years and everybody knew who he was, a lot of the stuff wouldn't have any credibility. But the mere fact that he's undefined and he's new and people have tried to define him, I think has created some of that. The same way with Palin. If Palin had been governor for 10 years, I don't care whether it's Arkansas or Alaska or what have you, there wouldn't be quite the parity, there wouldn't be quite the uncertainty. Can she do the job as a governor? Maybe she can. I think she can. I've worked with a lot of governors. But at the end of the day, that's what creates the two questions on both of them.
Well, guess what? We come to the end. I want to ask you two questions. Who won? And whether you think the net will bring Palin down to where she was. This has to be a short answer, Joe.
Biden won, and she's in a kind of a stable position right now. She's going to.
So the net won't bring her down.
Not necessarily. I mean, unless there are new revelations about her that are very damaging, I think she'll retain her popularity among Republicans, and she will be basically unappealing to everybody else as a leader. As a person, yes, but as a leader, no.
Thank you very much for coming by, Joe.
My pleasure.
Ed, will the net knock her down to where she was before?
No.
So therefore she won the debate?
Well, she won the debate from the point of view of what she had to do. They both had different assignments, and I think both of them basically, this is now a race between Barack Obama and John McCain. And that's
the two of them are canceled each other.
And that's what it should be.
Hey, Ed.
See you, buddy.
Thanks a lot for coming by.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for coming by, and come by again next week and learn more about the digital age. For the digital age, I am James Goodale. Good night and have a good week.